All right. I don't know if y'all realize I'm feeling very excited these days about this show, you know. Really, really excited. And of course, you saw our billboard. It's time for Your Body and You. And this is the time when every Thursday at about 7:15, somewhere between 7:15 to 7:20, we take the opportunity to speak to you about all the things that can affect you. And one of those things that we're going to talk about now, it might be psychological, it might be mental, but we want to talk about burnout. What does this terminology really means, and how do we get there? Well, to join us this morning to speak about that is social worker, manager at Medical Social Work Department, Celia Orosco. Good morning to you, Mrs. Orosco.
Good morning to you, and good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you so much for joining us. I hope the new year has started off on a positive note for you and that you're not anywhere close to that burnout that some of us are experiencing.
Grateful not to be in burnout.
Amen.
Grateful.
So what does this really mean? What's this terminology burnout means?
Burnout speaks to being totally exhausted. It's more like being tired. You know, if you're tired, you can take a nap and you will recover. Yeah. Burnout is not that. Burnout is exhaustion, total mental and physical exhaustion. You can't function, it affects you, and it can creep up on you. If you are not alert, if you are not self-aware, it will creep up on you. But burnout is really a severe problem right now, an issue for us right now, especially in this pandemic era. So we have to be more self-aware. We have to know who we are. We have to know what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses. We have to know when we can go on, when we can say yes, when we can say no, when we can push ourselves a little, when we can pull back. So this is just like in the morning, we prepare for work. When we prepare for work, we check the mirror several times. I think each morning for us now, we have to check ourselves. Where are we?
But Mrs. Orosco, how do we check ourselves? What are some of the things that we can do, you know, to just check in with ourselves to ensure that we are okay psychologically, mentally, emotionally, even physically?
Yes, so those are exactly some of the things that you can do. You really have to know self first. Okay, so what makes you happy? What are your triggers? Really just sit down and be with you. Mindfulness, know how am I feeling today? Am I tired? Am I exhausted? Am I angry? Reflection as well in terms of what you do, what you say, how you behave. Did I get enough sleep last night? What can I take on today? What can I not take on today? It really talks about you speaking to you, doing an inventory, doing a SWOT analysis of yourself.
Yeah.
And it really has to be done really daily. It's really, really important. Otherwise, you will get caught up in burnout.
And, you know, I was just sitting here and thinking that, you know, a lot of times we make excuses for how we feel. And, you know, we find ways to justify the fact that we're tired or that, you know, we don't want to wake up. But what are some of the things that are there that we can use to recognize that, no, this is more than just fatigue. This is more than just having a bad day, that, no, I'm at the point where things are beyond that and I might need help. How do we recognize that? Because I think a lot of us aren't aware of self.
Okay, so some of the signs would be you're always tired. You always feel overwhelmed. Can't sleep or not rested when upon wake, or you cannot sleep at all. You're aggressive. You can't concentrate. Tasks that you would normally be able to do, you can't do it. You're unable to problem solve. You get sick quickly and more often than usual. Those are some of the signs. You are unable to perform your role personally and your responsibilities professionally. Those are some of the things when you were able to, those things that you were once able to do, you are no longer able to do it. There's a loss of interest in hobbies that you loved and enjoyed. You are not finding time or taking the time for self-care. Yeah. Those are some of the things that you can check to see whether you're burnt out. And sometimes colleagues may give you a hint, family members may give you a hint. You are unable to control your emotions. You might be snappy. For me, I'm a morning person. So if I get up and I'm snapping, then something is wrong with me. there are different things that but it really can be very personal because not all of us are morning persons. So some people may get up in the morning and maybe grumpy, and that's fine. But for me, if I get up grumpy, that's not fine. Something is going on. And if I continuously get up grouchy, wake up grumpy, yeah, that's not fine. It's the constant tiredness, the constant feeling overwhelmed, the demotivation.
Yeah.
Those are some of the signs.
And you know, a lot of times we talk about burnout, we tend to focus on, you know, the workplace. But outside of the workplace, what are other areas that we can experience this in our lives?
And that is so true. Initially, it was considered to be an issue with persons in the helping profession, but it's no longer so. As a spouse, I can be burnout. I could have all the responsibility of the household, whether they are thrust upon me or whether I feel I can do them better than anyone else, better than my partner, and I continue doing them. I can become burnout. In this era, parents, I can see them being burnout, having to juggle your job, having to juggle children at home, school. I can see anybody, anywhere can be burnout. Journalists, they can be burnout. They can be burnout as well. So any role and function that you perform, you can be burnt out if you continue taking on too much on your shoulders. Yeah. We have to learn that no is not a bad word. No is not an obscene word. No is to protect you. You can't give what you don't have. If you continue giving as a wife, if you continue giving as a mother, if you continue giving as a friend, and you're not replenishing that which you have become depleted of, then you would suffer burnout. If you have a store and your stocks continuously be depleted and you don't replenish, it will shut down, and same with your body. If you continue giving, we have to put back that which we give out. We have to put back that which has been taken from us, and that can happen in any role, personal role and professionally.
But in terms of the burnout, though, I'm thinking to myself, apart from just giving, what are some of the other things that can lead to burnout? Because I don't want to believe that it's just, you know, is it just a matter of just overextending yourself?
It is overextending yourself, yes. And an environment that probably may not be conducive to your needs, an environment that maybe you may be overstimulated in, and I mean that you're constantly presented with trauma, with stressors. Okay, so like our nurses and doctors constantly that our attendants constantly that our lab technician constantly a positive results. Our medical record staff, I'm speaking about like work in the work environment. You're constantly bombarded with negative stimuli. You're constantly bombarded with trauma. Yeah, that can affect you as well.
And that's a serious thing. But you know, Ruckus was asking if you get to this burnout and you're talking about, you know, being able to replenish, what are some of the things that we can do to replenish ourselves if we recognize that we are at that point where we need help?
Okay, so extremely big, and we have to start with us. Extremely big is self-care. We have to be tactical. We have to be deliberate in caring for ourselves. We have to take the time to exercise, to eat well. We have to take the time to do the things that we love, that we enjoy. Self-care for some people be spending time with their family. Make time for those things that will replenish you, that will build you up, but it has to be deliberate. It cannot be a Vicky-bye. It has to be planned, especially now. It has to be tactical.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely important. But, you know, outside of self-care, can the support of family and friends help us to get over the hurdle of burnout?
Yes, they can. Once they're able to, if it reaches a stage where you are not able, your family, and you are not able to assist, then you can reach out to a medical social worker. You can reach out to a school social worker. You can reach out to a worker in family services. You can reach out, and you should reach out to someone when you get to that point where you are so depressed and so demotivated. There is help available for you.
You know, when it comes on to students, we tend to just want to talk about anxiety and depression. But can students experience burnout as well?
Of course, I think any role, and being a student is a role, any role that becomes too overwhelming, constantly tiring for you, you can experience burnout.
But do we recognize it as such, though? Because as I said, a lot of times, you know, we see the changes in the child and we automatically think that there's some mental health issue, or, you know, there's anxiety or there's depression. But I can't ever remember hearing, you know, somebody referring to a child as being burnt out.
No, they don't, because we often think, oh, they are full of energy. It's a child. What are you talking about burnout? They don't have this, they don't have any responsibilities, but they do, and they do become burnout. They do become overwhelmed constantly. So yes, we are, and we have to be, we need to be aware. We need to be aware of the children in our environment, whether we are teachers, whether we are parents, whether we are relatives. We need to just be aware of the changes that may occur. Some children may be tired. Some children may have certain issues, but we need to notice that when a change occurs. But it has to be, there's something different about that child, and you have to notice it. So again, it goes back to being aware of your children, aware of the children in your classroom, aware of the children that you have under your roof. Those are important things.
And are there ways that we can identify the difference between, you know, a child who is burnt out and a child who is suffering from some kind of depression or some other trauma?
Yes, there are ways that you can. The most important way is speaking, engaging that child in conversation.
Yeah,
that's key.
And what are some of the things that we can do to help them to get over this burnout if a student is experiencing that?
So again, being deliberate. Some of the things that they may enjoy reading, any sort of vent. Exercise, and they can become involved in exercise, and exercise is a stress reliever. Talking to them, not necessarily badgering them, but talking to them. How was your day? Finding what's happening, and putting a little word every now and again, encouraging them, supporting them. Those are the things that you can do with them in terms of helping them overcome.
And do we have a time limit in terms of how long it may take somebody to get over this idea of, you know, being overwhelmed, of, you know, just being completely and totally exhausted? Are there time limits to these things, or, you know, to each person it depends on their circumstances, environment?
Right. It has been my experience. It really is personal. It's specific to exactly the stimuli that you receive in your environment, and the extent of work that you put in. So someone will overcome it in a few weeks, someone will take months. So it's dependent on you, the individual, your environment, and the intervention.
Do you know, Mrs. Orosco, if there are specific programs that are tailor-made to dealing with this issue?
I'm not aware of any specific programs, no.
Isn't that part of the problem, though, that here we are, especially in a pandemic, where we have so many people, especially in the health in the health sector, you know, whether directly or indirectly, who are affected by this pandemic, who are experiencing burnout. But how do we treat with them if we don't even have, you know, programs in place to, one, identify it, and then two, address it?
Okay, so there may not be programs, but there definitely are personnel. There are persons who you can reach out to. I don't know how much aware people are of it, but there are psychologists, psychiatrists, medical social workers who can support you, and social workers across the board. There are persons that you can reach out to. There may not be a specific program marked labeled burnout, but once you get once you begin intervention with any of these professionals, they can work you through. They can work through with you on the burnouts.
Right. And are we seeing a lot more of this since the pandemic? Are we having, from your experience, more people reaching out for assistance, you know, after hitting that floor of being just completely and totally exhausted?
Definitely so. People, yes, definitely so. There is a cry, there is a call, and we continue to be prepared and ready and able to support. But yes, there's more burnout among healthcare professionals. There's more burnout among people in the educational system. Because we are all affected, right? So there is yes, people have been reaching out, but yes, there is a difference. There is an increase.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, I am hoping that people are getting help. And as you said, that there are people out there, medical social workers, psychologists, who are there who can, counselors who can help people to get help. But that one we're able to, because to me, the importance of the program is that one, we're able to recognize that this is where we are and this is what is happening. Because we know that misdiagnosis happens a lot in life, you know, and that you don't want somebody being burnt out but being treated for, you know, depression or anxiety or, you know, some kind of mental disorder when really and truly this is where we are. So if we don't have these programs, do you think it's something that, you know, the ministry could consider having this particular thing that people can say, okay, these are the things you should look for, these are the things that you can do to help, these are the people who you can reach out to? Don't you think that would help us?
Yes, that will. There is a directory of mental health professionals that Ministry of Health came out with, and it's somewhere out there. But there is one, and yes, there are programs that can be put in place.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Specifically for burnout, especially at this time.
Right, because, all right, we have to leave it there. Mrs. Orosco, thank you so much for sharing with us this morning.
Thank you for inviting me. It's nice being here.
You're most welcome. Celia Orosco there, Medical Social Work Department Manager, just talking to us about burnout.